Well, welcome everybody. You're very welcome to this open evening for the School of Education's PhD and DEd programmes. We decided to run this evening mainly because this is the time of year when we get quite a lot of inquiries to the school with people thinking about what they'd like to do next September and what programmes they'd like to take part in. This is when the planning really happens. So we thought it might be really useful to have an evening where we can hopefully answer your questions that you might have, but we also will provide an opportunity at the end of this session where we can have a Q&A and go over any questions in case we haven't covered them in the presentation itself. So if you want to go on to the next slide there, Andrew, please. So I just want to go over briefly what we're going to do in this session. We will open just in a moment. The head of school, Professor Damien Merchant, he's going to say a few words to welcome you to the School of Education and go through some of the activities that are going on in the school. He's then going to hand back to me and I'm going to just describe the school in a little more detail, given a historical overview, but also what kind of research and work that was carried out there and the types of staff and student numbers that we have. And I'm also, in my role as PhD coordinator in the school, I'm going to give an overview of the actual PhD program that we run. But as I said, this is quite brief, and if you have any further questions, my email is on the school website, so I'm happy to take up any questions afterwards or even here this evening. I'm then going to hand over to Professor Andrew Loxley, and he's going to describe the Doctorate of Education, which some of you here this evening might be interested in as well, and he'll go over that, and I'm sure, Andrew, you're happy to take questions on that too.
Indeed.
Much as I'm sure you're interested in hearing what myself and Damien and Andrew have to say, we actually are really grateful as some students of the current, past and present students of PhD and DEd programs are here this evening, and they're going to be available to answer questions, but also go over their experiences of doing a PhD or DEd in the school, which I think is invaluable. And we'll also have a few words from our Director of Research in the School of Education, Dr. Anne Devitt, and she'll go over some of the research activity that's going on in the school and the types of things that if you were to do the PhD or DEd that you might be involved in terms of seminars and conferences and things like that. And then, yeah, we're going to finish up the evening then with the Q&A sessions, and we'll all be available then to answer any queries you have. But I would kind of encourage you just to throw your questions in the chat, and then we can log them as we go along and maybe respond to them at the end. But it's also helpful, we can respond as the evening goes on as well if anything comes up that you'd like to find out a little bit more about. So I think now what I'm going to do is hand over to the head of school, Professor Damien Merchant, who is going to say a few words on. You can go on to the next slide there, Andrew, if you want.
Right, Joanne, thanks indeed. Just give me a thumbs up if my audio is working. Okay, very good. You never know in this Zoom world. Look, just good evening, everybody. Evening, colleagues, and especially guests who have joined us to find out a little bit about our doctoral programs this evening. And we really just want to take the opportunity to share some possibilities with you. You know, I know that you're interested in doctoral study. Normally we'd meet in the Arts Building in Trinity, we'd go through the programs and we'd meet informally afterwards for a cup of coffee and get a chance to really chat through some of the detail of it. So, you know, we'll approximate that today. I'm afraid you'll have to brew your own coffee, but hopefully you will come away this evening with some of the questions answered about doctoral study. And as Joanne and others will stress throughout the evening, please do feel free to come back to us at any stage and find out more information. You know, I do remember well when I was setting out on your journey, and I'm addressing guests here this evening. I do remember when I thought about and set out on the postgraduate journey over 3 decades ago, and it was exciting. It was exciting then, and it's exciting now, to be honest, even to think of it. And if I was to draw one conclusion from that, it would be that you don't yet know the opportunities that this can bring you. It will open doors that you possibly hadn't thought about, and it would possibly bring you to a place in your work and your life that you really haven't thought about yet. And that's what's exciting, and it's all ahead of you. So look, I'm jealous, and I wish you the best of luck in looking at doctoral study, and I do hope that you look seriously at Trinity and perhaps join us here. A couple of words about Trinity, and I know, Joanne, I think you're going to talk a little bit about the School of Education, but let me say a few things about Trinity. We are passionate about Trinity, I think, on staff and students. It's an internationally recognized university. We're recognized for teaching excellence, for research, and for innovation. We're a strong performer in terms of the academic programs and the quality of the provision we make. We are, as a university, always in or around the top 100 in the world, and the School of Education's ranking closely approximates that of the university. And I don't wish to take from the work that our colleagues do in other universities around the country. They're very good colleagues to us, but I think on most objective measures of what we do, Trinity ranks #1 in the country and ranks highly internationally. I think there's a few reasons for this, and perhaps and hopefully this evening you'll get a taste of that. We are committed to excellence in teaching, to excellence in research, and to providing a nurturing, careful, innovative and supportive learning environment for students. And I hope that the students may well be able to bear that out. And we do aim, as a university and as a school, Trinity aims to use the knowledge we generate and the knowledge we create for the good of Dublin and for the good of Ireland and for the good of the international, the wider international community. So Trinity is genuinely a university that stands on the world stage. And I'm really grateful that you've come this evening just to find out a little bit about what we do. And I hope, as I said earlier, that you get your questions answered. In a minute, Joanne will and Andrew will outline some of what we do in the school. Just a very broad context I'd set. In the school, we have five. I suppose we have 7 academic programs, 2 at the doctoral level. We have 2 undergraduate programs, and we have 5 postgraduate. We have strategic partnerships with a number of colleges and universities, and we have 6 research groups that are operational in the school. And taken together, those with our academic programs provide a very solid basis for a solid education that we can provide to our students. So you're going to meet a number of people this evening, as Joanne mentioned, and I just want to extend my own thanks to Joanne and to Andrew Loxley, the DEd coordinator, to Devitt, and to who's the Director of Research. Fiona McKibben is the Postgrad Research Officer. Keith Johnson is the Director of Postgraduate Teaching and Learning, and all our students and others who've come this evening. I think you'll get a sense this evening there's a team at play here. And if you join us in the school, you as students will become part of that team. We don't view you as students, we view our students as part of the greater team. They're great people, Joanne and them all, they're really great people. They're wonderful at what they do, and I hope you get the opportunity to meet with them and to work with them. We're a very diverse staff. We have a lot of interest, we have a lot of research interests. So I'm pretty sure that there's a match between your research interests and what we do. And I would encourage you to, through the PhD and the DEd, to really tease these issues out and see can you find that match between our interests that coincide. So just in summary, I welcome you again. I hope you get a good taste of what we do this evening, and most importantly, if you have any questions afterwards at the end of the evening, please reach out to me, to Joanne, to Keith, to Andrew, to any of us, and indeed, reach out to some of the students that you'll meet here this evening. So I'll leave it at that, and hope you enjoy and benefit from the evening. And I'll hand back over to Joanne, or is it to Andrew at the moment?
No, it's me. Next? It's me. I'm
Joanne,
up.
okay.
Yeah. Thanks a million, Damien. Thanks for that. And yeah, it's a good introduction to Trinity. And in this slide, I'm just going to give you an overview of the goings on in the school. The school was established in 1905 and it had the first professorial chair in education in Ireland. So it has really quite a long tradition of running research degrees at both master's and doctoral level. And it was the first university in Ireland to introduce the professional doctorate in education in 2005. Damien mentioned the world rankings and where the school fares in that, but I think what I'd like to emphasize here is just the active research culture that exists in the school. We've got 2 university research centres and we have 4 research groups, and within those centres and within those groups there's a hive of activity going on, and as Damien mentioned, quite a diverse range of topics kind of covered amongst the staff and students involved in those groups. We regularly host research conferences and seminars, and a number of staff are running a couple of podcasts as well. And as a PhD students or DEd students, you're really actively encouraged to be involved in any of these events. We run School of Education seminars once a month, which some of you might already be aware of. And I know that some of the students are going to talk in a little bit about the postgraduate research conference that's coming up in May, that's held annually as well, which is a great way to get involved in kind of, presenting your work as you go on your PhD or DEd journey. We have 15 full-time academic staff and 8 admin staff who often we describe as they make the whole school tick, they make the whole school work and make these programs work really, really efficiently. We've got 500 students and 80 at doctoral level, and we've 200 students on the master's programs that we run and 160 on the professors of education, and we also have 40 students at undergraduate level for the Bachelor in Music Education. And you can see there from the slide, we have 30 DEd completions and 10 to 15 PhD graduations per year. So we many of our students are doing their PhD, either full-time or part-time, and are graduating each year. And as Damien said, we've a cohort of experienced doctoral supervisors, and I suppose if I was to give advice, it's to kind of, if you have your research topic, which I'm sure many of you have, it's to seek out a supervisor where you think the topic aligns with what they do, and just to see where a possible match might lie. And I think that's probably the best bit of advice I could give this evening, and obviously establish, if they have a capacity to do the work with you. Andrew, do you want to go on, and I'll just maybe go into a bit more detail about the PhD programme, and you can go on again. Okay, so this is quite brief, as I said, so if you have any further questions, come back to me, but the PhD can be taken 4 years full-time or 6 years part-time, and we really see it as an opportunity to engage in high-quality research, but importantly, which makes an original contribution to knowledge. At the end of it, we would hope that you have a 100,000 word thesis, but in the 4 or 6 years that you decide to do the study in, you undertake 2 taught modules, and one of them is provided by Andrew here in the school on research methods, and the other one is centrally taught on research integrity that's centrally taught in the college. And I suppose the most important thing in your PhD is the relationship you have with your supervisor, and it's really a supportive relationship where the supervisor is appointed at the start, supervisor or supervisors are appointed at the start, and who kind of can shape and guide and work with you as you undertake your research. Go on there, Andrew, again. So many of the queries that we get are about the requirements, so we just thought we'd maybe discuss that a little bit. So it's a 2-1 honours degree, the submission and approval of a research proposal that demonstrates the potential to work at doctoral level. Now obviously your research proposal will change and it will deviate as you move through the research programme, we understand that, but the research, putting effort into the research proposal is obviously really important, and we'll be able to show your prospective supervisor what you're thinking of and the ideas that you have and how maybe you'd like to go about the particular project. And in addition to holding entry-level qualifications, the process also involves an interview with the potential supervisor, and this is really where you can discuss your proposal and the idea that you have, but also to assess the suitability and the potential for the study. Is it a PhD or DEd doctoral level? So it's really a great opportunity, not only for the potential supervisor, but for you as a student to see if there's a match there and to see if this is a suitable path for you. Applications are then reviewed by the school's postgraduate applications committee, and they make the final decision. But it's, as I said, it's the connection that you make with the supervisor, potential supervisor early on, is all important. I just thought we'd maybe just describe what the PhD looks like for full-time students, and you can double this time for a part-time student. In years 1 to 2, as I said, you take some mandatory modules and research methods, and we generally encourage students to undertake the literature review, and this is where I suppose this can be quite an overwhelming period, because the literature review starts out very broad in this particular year, but that's perfectly normal and a perfectly good place to be in the first 1 or 2 years of your PhD. We also encourage students during this period to submit their ethics applications for those doing an empirical study, so that their study is ethically approved, if you like. But also just decide on your methodology, and that goes hand in hand with the ethics application form, where you have to define your methodology and define what way you're going to go about perhaps collecting quantitative or qualitative data, or both. In the middle 2 years, students take part in what we call a confirmation process, and this is where students, I think it's a really valuable process actually. It's where students can submit 2 chapters of their research, 2 draft chapters of their research, and it's read by panel members who are staff members within the school, and they get really constructive feedback at that kind of crucial midpoint in your PhD. I can only think back on my PhD, I would have really appreciated this at this point, because it shows that you're on the right track, or if any changes need to be made at that kind of crucial period, just before you embark on fieldwork or an equivalent, depending on your methodology. And then in the end, the last 3 to 4 years, you're focusing on analysing any data that you have gathered, and importantly then writing up that analysis and making sure that it turns into kind of a single piece of academic work. And in this final stage is obviously you carry out the Viva Voce examination, and we all celebrate then at your graduation. So that's a kind of a very crude overview of what the PhD would look like, but I think it's no harm having a kind of an understanding of it at this point. Andrew, I'm going to hand over to you then. Maybe you could describe the DEd process.
Yeah, thank you, Joanne. I'm up in the corner in my true what I really do look like. I do look like a sort of woolly Captain Quirke. So if you do come, you'll see me around, walking around Trinity looking like that. One of the things that I think Joanne's a really nice overview of the PhD, and I'll do a quick overview of the DEd program, professional doctorate. There's a lot of similarities between the PhD and the DEd, in the sense that it is a research focused piece of work. You students do engage on a very substantial, very specific research topic. It has a similar kind of structure to the PhD, but it also differs in a number of respects as well, which I'll just quickly go over with you. The first thing is, it's a part-time program. It's not a full-time. It was always designed as a 4/5 year part-time postgrad course, and it's a level 10 qualification, so it has parity with the PhD. So it's exactly the same. You come out with a doctorate, and you also get to wear those lovely Aston Villa colours as well that are shown in the photograph. The other thing that is structured as well, whereas we have a structured PhD in School of Education, but it's certainly not as structured as what the DEd is. So it consists of 5 modules, and the thesis is slightly smaller as well. And the thesis is slightly smaller to take into account the fact that students produce something like about 20 to 25,000 words on their journey to produce their thesis, their final thesis there. So they do exactly the same amount of words as what you'd expect from a PhD student. It's around about 100,000 words, but it's done it's carved up in a slightly different way. The other thing that separates off the PhD from the DEd, or sorry, the DEd from the PhD, is really about professional practice. The PhD can come in, sort of do research on whatever you want, whether it's an historical basis or whether you're interested in a very sort of abstract philosophical problem that you've been, there's a real burning desire for you for years. the DEd is really about people who want to explore their own practice, what they're getting up to as educators there. And that's always been one of the markers of separation between the DEd and the PhD. We get lots of good people coming along and saying, I'd like to do a DEd, but the proposal that they put forward doesn't really centre or focus on their work as a practitioner. The other thing is that it's always been a small group as well there, and it's always been a cohort based as well there. We find this one of the strengths of the program is that students come in as a group and they stick together as a group and they work together very well and they're very supportive of each other. So they move through the program as a class group there, and that's one of the strong benefits, and that's one of the reasons why people do choose to do the DEd over and above perhaps a PhD. They prefer the idea that it's structured, they prefer the idea that they're working with a group of students, also on a continuous basis as well, almost right to the end of the 4 years there. And the other thing is that we designed it so in terms of the timetabling of it, and the modules themselves is very much sort of based around sort of practitioner needs. So we try to make it very student-centred, but also practitioner-centred as possible there. The modules are constantly revised, constantly reviewed, so we're constantly talking to students about the programme, how it works, how it operates, both in terms of the content and the structure. So it's constantly being sort of adapted to hopefully what students and practitioners need out of it. Just move on. Here, if it will move on, it's moving on there. The program's got lots of aims and objectives to it, but I'll just sort of share some with you. That it's been going since 2005. I was the person who put it together, and Damien as well had a good hand in it as well in putting it together. I remember we had lots of conversations about what we should do with this and how we should cater for practitioners as a professional doctorate. But we've always had these very solid foundations to it in terms of the principles which we operate with. Even though content's changed, structure's changed over the years, we still have these very, very sort of solid foundations to it. And one of the ones that is incredibly important to us, and this echoes back to Damien's point and Joanne's point around our sort of research focus within the school, is that top one there, to enable students to question, challenge and to transform personal and professional knowledge in a deep and meaningful way that's direct impact on their thought and practice. And I think some of the students who will come in and talk about their experience, not just on the DIB but also the PhD, would say that that's really what our programs are about, our doctoral programs about. As one of my colleagues would say, if we haven't changed you by the time you come out at the end of it, you should ask for your money back. So it's really about, there's a very strong sense of transformation on the program. Sometimes it's gradual, sometimes it's quite it's quite obvious, but most people leave slightly different from when they started, and that's one of our positive aims of the program there. Just give you some idea of how it fits together, is that one of the things that we do similar to the PhD is that students are allocated a supervisor right from day one. Other programs of this nature, other professional doctorates might not give you or might not allocate you a supervisor until you're halfway through the program. We take the view that you write a research proposal similar to the PhD, we find a supervisor for you, so we try very, very hard to match your research interests with a supervisor's interest as well, very similar to the PhD there, and they're with you all along the line there, right from the start, right to the end, similar to the PhD. There's the modules that we do as well there, and they're spread out over 3 years. And again, they're challenging, they're designed to challenge people, they're designed to sort of push people outside their comfort zone, and that regularly works for us. And then there's the research bit. The research is central to this. You start on the program, similar to the PhD, with a research area, a research idea, a set of research questions, and you follow them through to the end, hopefully through to completion, through to the Viva stage there. So there's those three elements to it. So in terms of the structure, and again, this is what we think has worked for us very well and for students very well, and is also very attractive to students when they're thinking about doctoral works. It's not a decision that people take lightly, that some people prefer to have a much more structured way of engaging with their doctoral work. And again, this is the structure that we've worked with over a number of years. It gets revised every 3 years. We come back and review the programme, but by and large we're stuck with this particular model since we started the programme, because it works for us, but we do shift it around a bit there. And again, there's milestones built in there, and again, students, do like that, in a sense that, where am I going in any particular point in any particular year there. And again, it's fairly neat and tidy in the way it's broken up, that there's a confirmation in year 2, same as the PhD there, to just that midpoint, just to make sure that that you're okay, you're on track, and you're ready to move on to the years 3 and 4, where you actually engage in your research in a very, very substantive way. And then hopefully in year 4, you finish and you get the nice Aston Villa colours. So how do you get onto it? We usually look for a master's level qualification or an equivalent, and the equivalent is, we're very much open to equivalency there, but generally most people do come in with a master's, and we find that's quite useful. The master's helps preparatory work with the DEd, because it is very intense. It's part-time. Most people who do the programme tend to be working full-time as well. It's a very intense programme, so people who've gone through a master's programme do have a particular understanding of what it's like to work at postgrad level. We usually look for a minimum of 3 years experience in an educational or related context there. Again, the programme's designed for practitioners, so it's useful if you do have a sort of background in practice. And again, it's wide ranging. We have people from preschool through to primary, post-primary, further education, people working in the higher ed sector, people working from the inspectorate. So there's a whole range of different sort of sectors that people come from, and that adds to a really nice sort of mix within the group. It really adds a sort of lovely sort of mix of individuals and characteristics and backgrounds to the cohort there. Similar to the PhD here is that we look for a research proposal that again demonstrates potential to work at a doctoral level. There's an interview with me or a potential supervisor, so we like to discuss initial proposals first of all, and then there's a committee as well where we review the applications as well. They're just and sort of make sure that people are that it's right for you, that the proposal meets the various criteria, and importantly we have someone to supervise you as well there. And the committee is very useful there, so it's a sort of range of different experiences and expertise we draw on from the school to review the applications there. And what else have we got? Yeah, okay, so that's me. So that's the DEd almost in its entirety. Now we've got some students, ex-students, current students to talk about their experience of their programs there. So Marie, are you out there? Marie Moran, you're free. DEd, pick on you first. You probably get your own back on me at a later stage. I'll make a confession. Marie's one of my students. I'm supervising. She's in sort of year 3 of the DEd and is doing a case study of the persistence in higher education in Ireland with a focus on the Institute of Technology sector. Marie, take it away.
Thanks, Andrew. So thanks for inviting me to speak about the process here. I have to say, I suppose my case study is, as Andrew said, is on persistence in higher education in Ireland, but very much with a focus on the Institute of Technology sector. And I am doing the DEd because my role is currently head of Department of Business in IT Sligo. So it's very much applied to my practice. I chose the DEd specifically for that reason. It was because I wanted to do something that was relevant for my work, that I could actually link back into practice, and also because it had the taught components as well. So that really appealed to me because, as you've heard, some of the differences between the PhD and the DEd. is that the DED is that kind of structured taught process, and the modules are broken up into different areas where for me personally, I was learning about things that I hadn't really I had some idea of, but I didn't really have a kind of a sound, if you like, in my view, kind of educational background in them. So they certainly will push you out of your comfort zone, but I have to say that it's been one of the most enjoyable things that I have done. Being with a group of other people, I actually found very helpful. And as Andrew mentioned, there's that kind of mix of different types of people on the DED programme. So once the top modules are finished, all the time while you're doing that, you're still working towards your research and being able to identify, the literature, the research methodology and all those things. So even while you're doing the modules, you've always got an eye on what you're doing for your research as well. In terms of maybe the level of support, the excellence in teaching that was mentioned at the beginning, I have to say that I have experienced as a student. So while I'm managing students a lot of the time in my day job, I'm a student when I'm doing this. From a student perspective, I couldn't speak highly enough of the excellence, both in teaching and in terms of support to guide you through this, the DED journey. So it has been, for
Fiona,
me,
are you in?
Sorry?
Andrew?
Did you drop Anne?
Andrew? Andrew? Andrew?
Can you still hear me?
We can hear you, Marie. I'm just trying to catch Andrew's attention.
It's okay, we're on mute now.
Oh, grand.
Is that okay? Will I keep going?
Keep going, Marie. Yeah.
Okay, sorry. I wasn't sure if I was trying to catch him. So I suppose for me, even though I haven't finished, and I'm at the process now of gathering data and going back over my literature review. I suppose it's very much kind of an iterative process in terms of, even when you are doing the modules, you're looking all the time, planning ahead to your research. But for me, even though I'm not finished, I think almost from day one, I would have started to think quite differently about how I worked and what I did. I also changed job from the time that I started the DED until now. And when I started, I was assistant registrar, so I was looking very much at quality assurance, but also looking at things like retention in higher education, which is obviously a hot topic. It's always a hot topic. And then I moved from that into head of department. So for me, it's been very much since day one, I have really thought quite differently about how I've worked. And it's made me challenge in a lot of ways, maybe my own practice and what I do and the way that I work. So from that perspective, it has been a really beneficial journey for me in terms of what I've been able to do from a practical perspective and also just in terms of my own kind of personal development. There's quite a time commitment, as you would imagine, in doing something like that. But what I will say is that, in terms of the structure of the programme and the way that it's organised, by the time you come to maybe, the end of the week on a Friday, on the days where you could travel, I'm not based in Dublin, I'm actually based in Maire, so that, I would get the train up and on the days where we could do that, actually, well, you might think at the end of the week, you're quite tired and you've had a full week behind you. It's actually very energising, a very positive thing to actually leave that work environment behind and go into the education environment. So it's something that I have found from every respect a very positive experience, and I would highly recommend it. If you were thinking of doing something where you wanted to apply it into your workplace, you can see really very early on how it would apply and how you would actually change what your practice is. So hopefully that gives you a flavour of what I'm doing and what I've got out of the programme so far.
Andrew, are you there? I'll take over, Marie. Thanks a million for that.
Okay.
It's really inspiring. It's like you're well on your way. So thanks a million for that. I might just draw on maybe one of the PhDs to contribute now. Mary, would you like to say a few words? And if you wouldn't mind mentioning the conference as well, I think that might be really helpful.
Sorry, can you hear me?
Perfectly, yeah.
Yeah, great, okay. Well, thank you very much for inviting me to chat, Joanne. I was just looking at the Twitter feed there. Yes, I suppose I came in from the NGO sector, having worked for years as career guidance, but always outside of the formal education environments. I've worked HSE. I've always felt I was an educational practitioner, even though I wasn't a teacher in the classroom. And I brought years of advocacy and experience in. And what I'm loving about the PhD is the fact that there's a lot of things that I felt and could see out there that I'm actually getting to link up with the theory and make it much more concrete and really think about that a little bit more. And I think it is going to change me. Well, it is changing me, there's no think about it, but I'm actually enjoying the change. I'd often joke to friends that it's the greatest midlife crisis I ever had. I could have bought a fast car, but I didn't. And I did think long and hard about coming back and doing it, because I think I had thought that I might have done it earlier in my career, but I'd say to anybody who's thinking of coming back and doing it that it's certainly never too late. I think that it's bringing an awful lot to my life in terms of work and friendships and how I approach things. One of the activities that Joanne has mentioned that I've got involved with this year in the school is what's called a postgraduate research conference. And it's a conference run by students for students, and it tends to be on the student research, and it's a free conference. And actually, if you were thinking of doing your doctorate at all, I would encourage you to link up to it this year. It's all going to be virtual, and it's on going to be May the 8th. So you'll be more than welcome to actually come along and even just see, I suppose, what research is happening, what other people are doing, what they're thinking about, what they're talking about, how it's shaping their lives. There would be, it would be an excellent opportunity to even see what actually is going on. I could say a lot, but I know the time is precious. If anybody wants to comment on the chat group, please do. But have I said enough, Joanne?
That's perfect, Mary. Thanks a million for that. And while I have the PhD side here, Andrew, I'm going to take advantage, and maybe Tanya, would you mind saying, because you're in your fourth year, so you're in your completion, so would you mind saying a couple of words about your experiences?
Hi, Joanne. Absolutely. Hello, everybody. My name is Tanya Zubrzycki. I'm in the last year of my full-time PhD in the School of Education, as Joanne had mentioned. My background is in finance. I used to work for Ernst & Young for many years ago, but then I went into academia and I never looked back. So my academic career started at the University of Puerto Rico in the United States, where I worked in the grants proposals office. Then I moved to Ireland, and I was involved in several European Erasmus Plus projects. So I became very interested in higher education, and particularly higher education research focused on policy. And there were so many opportunities I wanted to pursue. So I realized that for me to become a better researcher, it would involve studying for a PhD. So that brought me to Trinity. Higher education research is quite a narrow area, and I heard about CAVE Research Center in the School of Education. CAVE stands for Cultures, Academic Values in Education Research Center. And I was very fortunate to find a supervisor, two supervisors actually, who are highly interested in higher education research as well. They have a wealth of expertise in it. So my research is on how the academic profession is changing in the Institute of Technology in Ireland. We now have our first technological university, TU Dublin, and more are underway. So I'm looking at this merger process as well. And this has been an incredible journey over the last 4 years. And it really transformed me, like I'm sure other PhDs and DEds have alluded. Through my PhD research, I got to meet so many interesting people, attended conferences, even wrote some publications. So if I were to highlight some things from my time in Trinity, that would definitely be participating in the annual School of Education Postgraduate Conference that Maire was just describing. That's an annual event taking place in May. And I would highly recommend everyone in the doctorate program in Trinity, in the School of Education, to take advantage of this conference and participate possibly more than once. So for me, it just became sort of a tradition every year to either present or just participate and hear about the breadth of research that's taken place in the School of Education. It's really impressive how different research can be, and how just incredibly interesting are the topics that people are exploring. Another thing to mention is the monthly School of Education research seminars. They were great for learning about the research carried out by the academic staff in the School of Education. There were also day-to-day things that kept me going and inspired, like connecting with fellow PhD students, and of course, supervisory meetings. A highlight was also being nominated for a desk in Trinity Lawn Room Hub, that's Arts and Humanities Research Center in Trinity College, Dublin. And this was a really exciting 2-year experience. I had a desk there and I got to work alongside doctoral researchers and postdocs from different disciplines in Trinity, from different schools. And what connected us is the interest in arts and humanities and relevance of our research for the field of arts and humanities. So there are great opportunities out there for early career researchers, and perhaps I should stop here and just wish you all best of luck, and I hope you enjoy your journey in Trinity.
Thank you, Tanya. I'm going to be jumping here and ask Dr. Cullen, who is one of our DEd graduates, to say a few words, just proving that there is light at the end of the DEd tunnel. Frank?
Thank you, Andrew. Yes, I actually graduated in 2012 from the DEd, and I have very fond memories, so much so I meet my supervisors for Christmas lunch every year, with the exception of the one gone because of COVID. But I found doing the DEd really mind-opening is the first thing. It broadens your horizons, it broadens your mind. I studied, carried out the research. It was a case study of international culinary internships. And I was looking at the development of students while on international internship. Very interesting. As part of that study, I had Erasmus funding to go and interview students while on their internships, and also to interview the employers, which were predominantly restaurant, hotel and restaurant employers, and they're all BA in culinary arts students and culinary entrepreneurship students that were being researched. So very interesting study. From that, developed a framework for enhancing the students' experience of their international internship. And we looked at the preparation during the internship, briefing after the internship, and how they develop. And that model is actually embedded now in the school, from which at the time I wasn't the head of school. I'm now the head of school, the School of Culinary Arts and Food Technology in TU Dublin. And we have embedded that within the school, the particular model. And since we've done that, we do have an academic team that supports the internships now, and we have very, very little problems now with student internships. They're well supported and they're well prepared for what they're going to. But in terms of doing the DEd in Trinity, I found the support mechanisms from the supervisors to be absolutely excellent. The program is set up that allows somebody has a busy lifestyle like I had back then and still have, to undertake a doctoral program and work at the same time. And it does require work. I mean, you have to pick something that you want to do and that you're passionate about, and from that, the drive, the internal intrinsic drive to do it, takes you through the program. Because there is no doctoral program or DEd program in the world that somebody will tell you it's easy. It's not. You have to sign up for hard work while you're actually doing it. I never forget the first meeting I had with Andrew, and he said the DEd is a marathon, and boy was he right when he said that to me. It is a marathon, but it is also very doable, and I think it's within everyone's grasp. to knuckle down and just get the work done and take on board what's been said, what advice you're actually getting. For me, it has fond memories, no more so than at the same time my son was doing a doctoral program in Trinity College, and my daughter was doing her undergraduate degree, and we got an opportunity to meet every month for a bit of lunch in the buttery in Trinity. So it has many memories for me in terms of what we're doing. In terms of the award that you're getting from Trinity College, it's Trinity is renowned worldwide as one of the leaders in research and education, and so it's a steadfast qualification that will last you for a lifetime. Shortly after graduating from Trinity, I was promoted to assistant head of school, and within a year I was the head of school in the school I'm currently in, and I've been there for 32 years. So yeah, I'd highly recommend the DEd. It does allow you the time to work. It doesn't allow much time to play, right? But you have to get your research done, and if you want it, it's there, and the supports are excellent. I found supervisors to be absolutely tremendous in Trinity. I always thank them when I meet them. So, thank you for giving me the time, Andrew, to support you. Cheers.
Thank you, Frank, and we always enjoyed the meal as well.
Yes.
Missed it this year, but I'm
yeah,
sure
that's right. Sure, we'll get it in the Grange Gorman campus. We'll have it.
Oh,
yeah.
Look forward to that. How about Evgenia? Because Evgenia's just completed the PhD with us, so another person who, people do actually finish these things. It's very important, and we pride ourselves in the school on two things. One, that our students do mostly get through, and they usually do very well. And also, and as you probably tell, Evgenia's Russian, from Russia, and we do have a large number of international students within our doctoral cohort as well. And again, we're very proud on that we can draw on students, from different countries, and they come to Ireland, they come to Trinity, and they're very welcome, and they add to the cultural sort of dynamics of the place as well. So I actually think that's a really good attribute within the school. So Evgenia, I won't gobble it in of your time.
Hello everyone. I'm really happy to talk today about my experience in Trinity, the School of Education. Well, my research sounds quite complicated, but actually it's pretty simple. I'm a policy analyst. I look at BRICS countries, Brazil, Russia, China, and South Africa, from the position how they build world-class universities. And for me, it was very important to go to these places, to all 5 countries, and actually do my interviews and even case study work. And actually, Trinity as a name, as a brand, really help you to open a lot of doors. For instance, I was during my PhD, I was a fellow in Fudan University in China. It's, I think, one of the top universities in China, and I studied there for a while, for 3 months, and also I did my field work, and all because I was affiliated with Trinity. And it's important that this affiliation helps you move forward to other places to do your work and to expand your horizon as a researcher. And also, I think one of the important opportunities that Trinity gives its research funding, because I got a few scholarships while studying Trinity, and it also gave me experience in terms of how to write funding proposals, how to communicate with other scholars, with other researchers, to build a research projects. All of this experience was a part of the PhD game, I would say. And it's very positive experience, because now I continue working in the field of international higher education. I'm connected now with the Han Foundation, and look how they build their universities in Central Asia, and also partner with another foundations in Sweden. Basically, still keep working on big developmental projects in other countries, well, based in London. And I think that because of this experience in School of Education in Trinity, I got this opportunity to kind of build my career as an international scholar and researcher. what else could I add? Also, actually, as I saw that in Q&A and in chat, somebody was asking about library and resources related to library. Yeah, it's very important. It's very useful. I'm still waiting for my graduation, and I use library resources in order to write my research papers. And software packages, they're also available for free for registered students in Trinity, like SPSS. It's very handy because, again, now when I did my research, I mostly used a qualitative approach, and now I switch into quants, and it's very useful because I still can download SPSS, practice, and learn using Trinity resources. I think it's that's it from me. I can answer more questions in terms of funding or other opportunities. Just drop me some email.
Thank you, Evgenia. That's really interesting. I think, yeah, it's interesting you brought up the library. I mean, Trinity is blessed with one of the finest libraries of all large European universities. It's in parallel to Oxford and Cambridge in terms of the amount of materials. There's something like about 6 million books, and it subscribes to something like about 50,000 journal titles. So there's never any shortage of reading material for you for holidays or bedtime or any other particular time of the day you want to do any reading. So again, it's incredibly well resourced in that respect, and we're very proud of that. Ciaran, do you want to, flipping back over to the DEd side of the house, do you want to say a few words about you and your work?
Absolutely, Andrew. I'd love to
Thank
say
you.
a few words. Ciaran Bauer is my name. I suppose, like, it's really fascinating hearing the different stories and the backgrounds of people. I'm actually based in Trinity College Dublin in a research group. The research group is called Trinity Access. And as I was sitting here trying to think of something different to say, because the previous people speaking have said so many wonderful, wonderful things about the environment of doing a PhD or doing the DEd. I myself are doing the DEd. There really is a sense, I looked at myself and I said, okay, I've come to this realm of education quite late in life. I have been involved in IT for many, many years, and then only in the last 7 or 8 years, completely changed tack and got involved in education. When I first started thinking about doing the DEd, I really said, am I good enough? Do I have the capabilities? I'm not really an academic, so really it's maybe not for me. Having then got involved with the DEd, it has transformed me so much in the sense that this is for everyone. I mentioned there Trinity Access. Trinity Access is really about inclusiveness and bringing people from very diverse backgrounds. And even though myself, I don't come from a particularly diverse background, it really is fascinating that the DEd program can draw many, many different people together from different and diverse backgrounds. Yes, we all share the common field of education at various levels, but we are involved in education in different areas. So the really fascinating thing about the DEd is this collaboration. Yes, we all individually work on our own approach to our research, whether it's lit reviews or the actual research itself. But what has been absolutely enlightening over the last 2 years is how we, and it is, I'm referring a little bit to my own research, but how we, the 12 involved, have become a community of practice ourselves. And it's not about the individual anymore, it's about the us. It's about how we have each other's back. So even though we've lived through COVID times, we're still only in year 2 or coming to the end of year 2. We have such an amazing camaraderie between us that you never lose sight of the fact that you're not on your own. And if there's anything I would strongly suggest, that if you're unsure about, do I have the capabilities? Am I up for this? Quite a long journey. Everyone has said that before. But what's really, really important to take on board is that if you do join the DEd, you're going to have some incredibly wonderful support, not only, as everyone has said, with supervisors and the machinations and all that in TCD, but with your fellow students. And that is the thought I just want to leave you all with. Thank you, Andrew.
Thank you, Ciaran. And flipping over to the PhD side, Mags, do you want to come in there?
I do, yeah, because straight after Ciaran's probably a good space for me to come in, because if he thinks he's mature, I come in at an even more mature part of my life, and Mary and I and some of the other older PhDs have been chatting about, we're called early career researchers when we go to conferences. It's kind of funny, but I came into it from, let's say, the relational part of it. I didn't get to come to one of these seminars. It probably wouldn't have changed my trajectory. The part of the college Ciaran talks about, the Trinity Access and the Quirke school is they were the people I knew. I was aware of Bridge 21 and projects that were going on. So when I decided, very suddenly, I decided I was going to chase this topic, I knew who I wanted for my supervisors, and that's what I would think is probably in the DEd and in the PhD, the biggest relationship for the next few years in your life, apart from your significant other, will be your supervisors. I have two, like early today, we were hammering tongs for almost 2 hours because I'm at a critical stage. P.S. Me and Tanya are in year 5. Can we shout that loudly, Tanya? We're in year 5, and I'm just grappling with a big bunch of data. I have findings, and I'm trying to TED it and sort it out. So I would say the big thing is get your relationships with your supervisors and establish. It's very easy in School of Ed. Sometimes I wonder. I work with Richard Millwood, who's a research fellow down in the School of Computer Science, Keith Johnston from the School of Ed. But like when I was grappling with ethics, I used to wonder, did Anne Devitt ever sleep? You send in a question, you get an answer straight away. Our research officer, Fiona, fastest finger first. You want to know some information, she's straight back to you. So on an interpersonal level, I would say either EdD or PhD, you know, you're coming to the right place. For me, it was PhD because I could be slower. I'm part-time, I'm on the slow trajectory. It's not a career path. It's the primacy for me is the topic. So I would say relationship-wise, you're coming to the right place, that's for sure. And then looking at the way the DEd is laid out, it's wonderful, you know, step by step. And if you prefer your own sort of time lapse, the PhD, but either, good luck. Oh yeah, and get to the conference. Mary, don't worry, Mary will rope you in one way or the other. I'm looking at names here and say Amy, who probably speak next. I followed Amy's career because we keep meeting at postgraduate conferences or education conferences. I would say get into the community of practice, get in with your cohort. Like I watched the DEd's Ciaran's group last year, they lit up the postgraduate student conference as a group, as a cohort. The relationship between them was very strong. So I would say engage with staff, faculty, your own research community, and in Trinity it's easy to engage. It's lovely.
Thank you, Mags. Didn't know, I forgot you were in year 5. I was trying to knock a year off you there. So
thank you, dear.
We might have appreciated that. And lastly, back onto the DEd side of the house there. Amy, are you there?
Yeah.
Coming towards the end of your DEd. Nice example of someone who's actually sticking to the timeline of doing it in 4 years.
Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Perfect. I'm a 4th year, hopefully final year student on the DEd programme. I have worked full-time as a primary school teacher throughout that, and as a part-time lecturer as well, and a few other outlets. I have just about got a draft thesis together now, so I'm 6 months before the actual deadline where I need to submit. So I would say it's definitely doable. It's been challenging at times, but extremely rewarding. I chose the DEd because it's very practical. I actually had no background really in research. My master's was in music. And I wanted something that would give me a strong foundation in research methods. Andrew is fantastic with the research method classes. He really takes into consideration what it is you're trying to do within your project individually, and then as a group tailors his classes to meet the needs of the group. I chose Trinity because it just seemed to be very much collaborative environment, as Ciaran has already mentioned. And I have found since I started, it's really increased my confidence. I came into the course at the age of 24, so I was an early stage career, in the early stages of my teaching career, even going into the course. And it's really helped me to build my confidence. That's probably the biggest thing that I've gotten out of the course. I never aspired to, going past the primary school classroom, never thought, I'd go past the door of the primary school. I've been in the same primary school, since I was a child. I went back to teach there. So it's opened a lot of doors and really changed my life. Doing this course, there's wonderful support. I have 3 excellent supervisors. The postgrad research officer, Fiona McKibben, is the nicest person you will ever meet. She holds the program together and is extremely encouraging and knows everybody by name and everybody's projects and checks in with you to see how you're getting on. I would say the biggest thing that if you are going to do either the DEd or the PhD is that you need to really reach out and collaborate with other lecturers and other students in the college in groups. And Mags has said about the research conference. I went as a first year DEd student to that research conference, and it gave me such wonderful confidence. I won a prize at it for my poster. I thought this was fantastic, and it really prepared me to go out there into the academic world, to present at bigger conferences. I think you really put in what you get out. So on the topic of collaboration, my research project is based on leadership and collaboration in STEM education at primary level. I carried out a national survey, and my lecturers and the lecturers in the college and my supervisors really wanted my research to be meaningful and impactful because it's doctorate research and it's geared towards practice. So together with other lecturers from different areas in the college and groups in the college, they arranged, and helped me to write research grant proposals to get funding to carry out a conference for 300 primary school principals and outreach STEM providers. And for me, at the age of 25, this was a really big deal. I hadn't done anything like this before. I learned a lot of wonderful skills. Then having completed kind of my DEd research, the data collection I needed a year early, when COVID hit, I worked with several researchers within the university to do a national study on leadership perspectives during COVID-19. At primary and post-primary levels. And I have to say, Dr. Anne Devitt, in charge of research for the School of Education, was instrumental in this, and that she helped me to arrange a launch through the School of Education. We had the head of the PDST, the head of the INTO, members from the Department of Education, all come together for this launch. I led the launch with the support of Anne Devitt and Fiona McKibben from the School of Education. And for me, as such an early stage, researcher, this was a wonderful experience and has really put me on a platform. I've also been awarded the John Coulihan Teaching Council bursary. And this is all, with the strong support from my supervisors and also the lecturers, other lecturers in the college. I've learned to write grants, I've papers under review in journals, I'm lecturing part-time. And as of last week, I've a new job as Learning and Innovation Program Manager with Young Social Innovators. So it has completely transformed my life. 4 years ago when I started, I didn't think I'd be leaving the primary school classroom, and now I find that I'm having an impact in education in Ireland on a national level, which is really wonderful. So I'd highly recommend the course to anybody that's interested in it. As I said, I didn't have a background in research before, but you have such strong support that if you communicate well with the team, you'll get absolutely everything that you need from them to make it through the course. So if you have any questions, feel free to put a message in the chat box or contact me afterwards.
Thank you, Amy, and thank you everyone for contributing. They're fascinating. Sometimes I've heard some of these stories for the first time as well. So as you said, there's a sort of an amazing array of students doing all sorts of different bits of work there, but again, very dedicated, very focused. I just want to, I'm just conscious of time here, I just really want to quickly say one of the things that were very take very, very seriously is the role of the supervisor working with students. You probably picked that up from what the students and graduates were saying there. They're crucial to the process. Even though you as students produce your own work, it is very much your own piece of research that you come out with at the end there. This is a journey that is done jointly between you and your supervisor as well. Hence the reason why it's incredibly important that we try and match the right supervisor with you as a student to go with this on this journey. It's a terrible cliche, but it really is literally a journey that you're taking. And sometimes it can take 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 years as well. Some people have quite longer journeys than others, but your supervisor pretty much sticks with you. And sometimes you might have 2 supervisors as well. That Amy's lucky enough to get 3 of them. I don't know how you managed that one, but you got 3 of them. But again, we take a view that sometimes you need 1 student supervisor, sometimes you have 2 supervisors, but they're absolutely essential for the whole process. And they don't necessarily just work at the academic level as well. They're very good in terms of dealing with perhaps the university's administrative structures as well, and engaging with the sort of administrative officers within the school on your behalf. And also, you know, one of the things that we try and do is encourage you to go to conferences and seminars beyond that of Trinity. We're very keen that you come to the Trinity ones and participate, but we like to send you out in the world as well when you do as part of this. We've got lots of supervisors. Well, we haven't got lots of supervisors, there's only about 15 of us, but we're all very experienced at supervising there. And again, very diligent as well, and very careful. And as Amy was saying, and others were saying, we do take the role of the supervisor very, very seriously. And all of us who do supervise, we've gone through the doctoral process as well. So we know what it's like to go through this, the pleasure and the pain associated with doing the doctorate. The other thing that's really important is a structured relationship as well there. And again, one of the things that we do, we sit down with students when they first are, and we do a plan of work with you. We plan out meetings, regular meetings, and look at the trajectory of the thesis right from the start. So we're very much sort of devolving, sort of setting out timelines and roadmaps to get you to progress you through the doctoral process there. Again, most people, if you haven't done this before, so you come in the sense of what am I up to here? And the supervisor is the most significant person in terms of navigating that process. And again, your fellow students, as everyone said, absolutely critical as well within this. It can be sort of quite an isolating and loathsome experience, but again, one of the things we pride ourselves on the school is that we try and make it as sort of a joint, as a community, as a communal experience as possible for you. And that leads on to the admin support. This is absolutely critical, and we have 2 wonderful PhD, DEd research officers, administrators to support the process. We do have a lot of students. As I said, there's 80 doctoral students within the school, and they're all at various stages and all have different needs and requirements, and they have different supervisors, and it's a messy job trying to keep track of them. It literally is, like the old cliche goes, of herding cats. It is like herding cats, and Caroline and Fiona are very good at also keeping all the supervisors on track, me in particular running the DEd, and Joanne as well with all her the sort of the nooks and crannies are trying to look after the PhD students. Is Fiona there? Do you want to unmute yourself? Would you like to introduce yourself to the people? I think she's there. I did see her. No, gone very quiet. She's very unusual. Right, I'll just. She might drop in at some point. hopefully. Right, the other thing I think that's incredibly important within the School of Education, and Anne will talk about this just straightly after me, is that you come in as your research students, but you're also part of a very dynamic research culture as well there. We see you as also fellow researchers. As Mags was saying, early career, yes, but undoubtedly you are part of the research culture within the school, and that's incredibly important. And we try and involve you, and I think you picked that up from sort of Maire and Mags, and involve in Tanya, involve you and Amy, and involve you in the particularly within the research seminars, the conferences, and so on and so forth, as much as we can, or as much as you would like to. Anne, did you want to say anything in that regard?
I'm waiting my turn. I was just checking that the light was bright enough.
Oh, right. I don't know. Is Fiona with us? She's disappeared. Can you see her on your...
She is there, but I'm just not sure that she's there right now.
Oh, oh, she
can drop whenever she's there. She can drop into us.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, do you want to say something about, because again, your role as director of research, and again, you are sort of have this job of also working with both myself and Joanne as well to try and to include the research students as much as possible within the broader research culture within the school and activities.
Yeah, exactly. Thanks, Andrew. So yeah, my role as director of research is to, I suppose, support and insofar as I can, and encourage all research active in the school. So that's with colleagues and our doctoral students and our postdoc staff also who are in the school. And so, as Andrew said, there's a range of ways in which you can share your research. You can hear about the research going on in the school. We have Joanne runs coffee mornings on Tuesday for doctoral students. The Talk About Education seminar series is run by doctoral students for doctoral students. And the School of Education seminar series it was monthly, I suppose, and it's kind of gone more than monthly now that we don't have the requirement to book a room in the arts building. Essentially, we can put on webinars whenever we like. So so we have a range of seminars running, and that would be staff research or student research coming, especially when people are coming to the end of their PhD or have just finished, or as Amy did, have yet to finish but have in the meantime done a whole other study and a whole excellent report. So we very much encourage our doctoral students to get involved at all levels. And as all of the current students have emphasized, the postgraduate research conference is a really valuable part of the year in the School of Education, and it's a very valuable part of the doctoral experience. And we, when it's physically in a place, we provide support for I guess what's needed for it, so for the catering and so on. But apart from that, it's run by students and for students, and it always is an excellent buzz and really vibrant. Even last year, Mags led the online version of it, and that also was just great fun, which is, in the world of online, that's something that's quite an achievement. And as well as that, we would run other conferences also, that would happen here and there on different themes. So drama in education, or CAVE policy days, and so on. So a range of things going on throughout the year. So maybe, yeah. Thanks, Andrew. Yeah. So is this for me, or is this?
That's you, Anne, if you don't
oh,
mind,
yeah,
but
sure,
I think
yeah,
you've probably done it. Yeah.
No, well, I suppose just to say, at the moment, nobody's in college at all. None of us, none of the staff, none of the students, pretty much. I think some students might be able to be in their desks, but so there's no gathering of anyone. But Joanne has instigated this online, where there is that meeting, the weekly meeting online, and that can be really valuable, so especially now where we're all so distant, to have these opportunities just to talk to each other, and to moan about what's going on, oh my god, I can't get my data, or oh, I've got my data, but I don't know what to do with it now, and all of these kinds of conversations that go on throughout a doctoral program. The research seminar series, as I said, it's typically the first Thursday of the month. Sometimes it moves to the last Thursday of the month if I get my dates wrong. And but we kind of extended this out to over the last year they've been running. We'd have 2 at least per month running. So there's a timetable for these on our events page on the school website. So do check in to see what's coming up and what you would like to attend. So that's people from within the school, people from outside the school, and I think Joanne is running one next week on with Frederick Fahy on Universal Design for Learning. So they're really great people coming in, including the staff and the students, to share their work. So do you want to move on there, Andrew? Yeah, I suppose we've all talked about the annual research conference, so I think we'll have a link to that at the end, but it's certainly a really, really wonderful day and lots of learning and even the experience of organising. I know many of the people here have been involved in the organisation, and that is an amazing skill to develop and one that is really valuable during a doctoral programme.
Thank you, Anne. That's really good there. And sort of back to myself and Joanne here. If you want to know more about it, then we're very please do contact us. One of the things that we do encourage people to do before making a formal application is to have sort of informal conversations with myself and Joanne to get the process going, so we can chat with you about what kind of research you might want to do, and also could we support the research as well, because again, as I said, we're a small school, our interests are diverse, but sometimes people do come along with really good ideas, and sometimes we can't take them on, mainly because we don't have a suitable supervisor for you. So we do take that view that we do like to make sure that we match the supervisor with students, and it'll save you the time to go through the process of doing the formal application there. And it's also, if you do have a good idea, we can chat through it to 2 or 3 conversations to support you in writing of the research proposal as well. So your application, when you do put it in, it's a good standard, and the committee will like the look of it there. As you can see, our email addresses are up there. There's each of our programs have dedicated web pages as well, where you'll find lots more information. But we do really encourage you to sort of contact us, and we're very happy to to take phone conversations and Zoom calls and emails with you to discuss your work with you there. Fiona, are you there to say, did you want to say something? Because again, you're quite important. I don't think,
just to say, I mean, what you want, gosh, you've covered everything really comprehensively.
In terms of one of the first ports of call on somebody who helps people navigate once they're on the programme as well.
Yeah, just to say, if you do run into any difficulties and you're trying to raise people, do send an email across to PhD research at tcd.ie. I'm normally there to answer it. I job share. I used to work full time there, but I job share now. I'm down to 3 days a week there, but I job share with a very competent lady called Caroline Morgan, who works Mondays and Tuesdays, and I work the remainder of the week, Wednesdays, Thursdays, Fridays. I've been really involved and loved. One of the peaks, one of my favourite aspects of the role is working alongside the students who are organising the PhD annual conference. It's heaps of fun, and it's hard work, back against the wall, but it's absolutely worth it, and it's always tremendous fun to be involved in that. I'm the person to whom you would submit your at your halfway period. You'd send your confirmation reports in and so on and so forth, and I'd be chasing you for those. And I'd, from an admin perspective, set up your confirmation interviews. That's a type of mini viva voce. And I'd also be chasing you for your annual progress reports and so forth. But I think that's enough for me at the moment.
Thank you, Fiona. So Fiona and Caroline keep Joanne, myself and our 80-odd students on the straight and narrow, as well as do wonderful work for dealing with inquiries of potential students as well. And so we're very, 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 very grateful for the support that we get. I think the programmes couldn't run without them. So thank you. I think that's all from us. What do you think, Joe? Enough of us, and so we open for some questions, and hopefully we might have some answers.
Yeah. You can put questions in the chat, or for those of you that have, you can unmute. Is this possible, Anne? Can people speak?
Sorry. Yeah, if you put your hand up there, I can. I think if you're not already unmuted, I can unmute you. Yes, I can see the button here. I can allow you to talk. So do either put up your hand or put a question in the chat, and we can have a chat.
There's a couple of questions in the Q&A.
Yeah, so I suppose there's one about whether
interesting one about, can potential students allowed attend the PhD research seminars? I think they're in school, Anne, aren't they, at the moment?
The research seminars are advertised on our webpage, and most of them, not all of them, are public. So so yeah, by all means join. There's lots of interesting work going on there. So in the next few weeks, as we said, we've got Frederick Fahy. We have a philosophy and education webinar, which I'll find who it is now in a moment. And then we have a running series of leadership and management webinars about once every 6 weeks. And lots of other things, podcasts, you name it. There's lots of things going on.
I've got a D-Ed question there. Can I
go for it?
The lectures, the sessions, they usually run on a Friday, and they're usually done on a sort of 4 in the afternoon to 8 in the evening, and they're usually twice a month, and they're timetabled. So you do one module beginning of the month and another module towards the end of the month. So we try to organise it so there's good sufficient gap between the sessions, and there's usually each module has about 8 sessions attached to it. So for the first 2 years, there'll be sort of 16 sessions a year there. And as Ciaran and a few other students will testify to, they're really very, very, quite good communal activities as well as getting me to sort of bore people to death as well with research methodology as well. But yeah, so we try not to over teach it, but really sort of use the modules to support your research work.
There's another question there that, correct me if I'm wrong, Andrew, but it's regarding whether the suitability of a PhD versus a doctorate, or whether the supervisor can guide you on that. I think it's safe to say that most of the staff involved would have experience supervising both PhD and doctorate, and with your proposal would be able to kind of guide you as to which is the most suitable program for you. So the answer to that is yes.
And it is usually around the thesis topic that it is where we see the differences lie. And also, as I think as Ciaran was saying, that you might appreciate a more structured program as well. Again, the PhD is a bit more sort of free flowing, as Mags was saying, whereas the PhD does have the DA does have a very definitive and very definite structure to it.
I think there's a few questions there about how to approach a supervisor, and it's probably worth emphasising that we get an awful lot of inquiries about DEds and PhDs, which is why we're delighted that we have a group here that we can talk to directly, I suppose, about the doctoral program and so on. We get a lot of inquiries, but we cannot take, we don't take on everyone who inquires, of course. And so the key really is to identify, within that volume of inquiries, we need to identify who is the most appropriate. And it's actually probably you as the future researcher who can do that best. So you have a look at the staff web pages, you have a look at what research is ongoing in the school and what is close to what you're interested in. If you can't see, if you can't, and you contact that person directly. So, and if they feel, okay, it's not quite a fit for me, but it might work for somebody else, then you contact them. So, you know, you might say a little bit about yourself, what your professional background is, and what your interest is in doing the doctorate, and roughly what areas. So, wouldn't be looking for, you know, a proposal, but just like a, you know, a couple of lines on what you want to explore. And that's really critical to essentially to match for people to understand whether there'd be a good fit for your research with theirs, because that's the best. You know, oftentimes that close relationship works best when you're sharing a research direction.
There's a question here, and that probably Andrew might be able to, because it's a good question, he touched on it. Is it only students who have a master's who would be considered for a PhD, or someone here, I think it's 18, has postgraduate diploma and advanced diploma, but not a master's? So Andrew, you mentioned something about that with the DEd.
Yeah, we would certainly not say no to someone. The masters was always we always set it at that, but again, we're very open to people who have got different qualifications as well. And again, people who've got lots of experience plus, you know, not a master's as well there. So we're very flexible around that. So just, you know, you just contact myself or contact Fiona or Caroline, or pass your query on to me.
There's a question about the detail in the research proposal, which is a useful one, I think, to address.
Yeah, I was going to say that we have guidelines, and the guidelines for writing the proposal for PhD and the DEd are pretty similar. We'll probably look for the proposal. We usually look for a bit of detail around that. Something like about 1,000 words wouldn't be unusual, but it's structured in a way to make it a fairly, hopefully, relatively straightforward process.
Yeah, I mean, it has to show evidence of writing skills. So, you know, that your writing is kind of directed. It doesn't have to be hugely formal, but, you know, just to show that that you would engage with the level of writing you have to do during the program, I suppose. And the other thing is that you have engaged already with some of the literature, and that you have not, you know, that you're not coming to this with a complete blank slate, that you've done your homework. People who want to go for, who are looking to get for scholarships, there are, you know, there's ways in which scholarships are available through the school and through other organisations. For those, the research proposal really has to be excellent. So, you know, if you're looking to go that route, it's critical that the research proposal is really exceptionally well done, and that's often done in collaboration with a future supervisor.
Yeah, I was going to say that the other thing that's really important to really focus on when you're doing the proposal are your research questions. There's questions in the guidelines about methodology and bits and pieces like that, but we don't necessarily expect you to have, again, a sort of detailed, in-depth knowledge of that. But we would certainly look for fairly clear thinking around the research questions, because they're the most important part of doing the doctoral work there. And this is where I think Anne was saying it's useful to have conversations with potential supervisors to help shape and form that.
And as Amy says in the chat there, the research proposal is important, but odds are it's going to change radically as soon as you start. You know, there's a lot that can change as you go through the process. So it's not that it's your proposal and your final, you know, definition of what you're going to do. It's just that it has to be clear and well articulated.
I just say, Anne, I know a lot of people, like some people approached me after the last open evening that you had separate to it, and said that they were a bit worried that they were committing themselves to 4 years on a very defined research topic and proposal. So yeah, it's obviously it has to be of a very high standard, but I think I don't know anyone in our year group who hasn't changed their proposal to some extent as their knowledge deepened in the area that they're working in.
I mean, anyone I've seen go through the PhD, there's no way that the research questions you start with are I mean, it's rare that they're the research questions you completely end with. So it's not
just
a problem.
Don't let it turn you off.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's not a problem to modify, but you don't want to be changing from literacy to numeracy, for example. That would be quite a jump, you know, quite a change. But you know,
they do shift. They do shift, they do change, but I think a sort of well-crafted research question says a lot about the potential to do doctoral work as well, that you can think very clearly and quite sharply around these the areas that you want to look at, and they do shift and they do change.
And actually, when I applied, when firstly I approached my supervisor, I applied for the scholarship, and Aidan helped me to draft to kind of guide my proposal, because I started with, obviously, I knew my research question, I knew research methods. Somebody asking about research methods, yes, I knew already in advance what kind of research I would like to do, and because I would like to apply for scholarship, Aidan helped me with a kind of guideline, which already was there, basics like introduction, research method, your question, how preliminary you would like to do it, and about yourself. And after that, your potential supervisor might help you to guide you already in terms of your future submission.
Yeah, there's a question there about how much you have to explain your research methods, and I suppose, like as Andrew said, it's about so again, that will change most likely, but it's kind of about being able to articulate a question and identify how you might explore that question. So it's not that you necessarily know exactly what route you're taking, but that you're indicating that you have some notion of what the options are, and that you can make those fit well to what it is you want to find out.
And Anne or Andrew, the question about the application window being in April or September, I don't quite know. Do you have clarity on that?
I think that's to do for the PhD or the de-edit.
PhD, I think.
The it's to do with, because there's two entry points, which is in the university, which is April and September. I think the school were only doing it in September.
That was my understanding as well. Yeah,
we made a decision that because so few students actually come in on the April time, we decided that we'd sort of not have that as an option anymore for a while. The de-ed is sort of an open sort of rolling process as well. So
I suppose
we keep that open as long as possible.
Yeah, that might be the question about the deadline. The start is September for both programs. When they're both, when the de-ed is running, it starts in September. The PhD starts in September. The deadline for applications, if you want to apply for the internal scholarships, it's April. If the scholarships aren't an issue, as for the de-ed, we sometimes keep that application process open, but for administrative reasons, we kind of need to close it around July. So it is something that you need to be thinking about now for this September. But sometimes people take, especially if they're going for scholarship and they're going for full-time PhD, they take a whole year to craft an excellent proposal. I wouldn't do that without having a supervisor on board, but sometimes people do that because they want and need an IRC, an Irish Research Council scholarship, or a China Scholarship Council scholarship, or there are options available.
The other thing I was going to say, there aren't any scholarships for the de-ed because it's a part-time program. It's a bit unfortunate, but that's the way the things are organised within the university. They don't have them. So most of the scholarships tend to. Hello.
Sorry, Andrew. I know a lot if you're a teaching council member, the Irish Teaching Council have scholarships for practitioners. If you're working at the same time as doing your research, and the INTO as well, and a lot of the education research centre, or the education centres, national education centres, run run grants for students doing PhD or doing doctoral research or equivalent level research. So they're really worth exploring, and I would recommend you do that before the summer, because I think the deadlines are usually July or August for those particular grants.
Yeah. Thank you, Amy, but there aren't any within. Well done. But there aren't any Trinity ones in the same as the sort of the Usher scholarships and that we offer.
No, but we do have
these other grants. They would cover the fees. they would usually cover the fees, the likes of the INTO or the Teaching Council or the Education Centre grants. And I know 3 other students from our DEd class are on the similar grants, so, and they would pay the fees each year.
Thank you. That's good to know.
I think we have we addressed all the questions? If anyone has a question that we haven't asked, you might type it in. We haven't answered, rather, you might type it in again.
Somebody's asked, sorry, Anne, somebody's asked about career opportunities. There is very little difference between a PhD and the DEd there, in terms of if you wish to go and often get a job as a lecturer. A good selection of our DEd graduates go on to work in higher education fields without any great difficulty there. And again, a lot of the graduates who working in, you know, prime sort of post in the compulsory sector would also be looking to use the DEd to move into sort of initial teacher education with the qualification as well. It's well regarded, it's well respected. So yeah, so it has that sort of parity with the PhD. I think I'll have to say that anyway.
I think it's fair to say then, if anyone has any follow-up questions, you have myself and Andrew's details on the final slide there, and this video recording will be made available and put on the school's website as well. So by all means, feel free to get in touch. Andrew, do you want to wrap up there? Do you have anything else to add?
I haven't, but I'd just like to thank everyone for coming along and participating, in particular Damien for his kind words at the beginning, Anne as well for organising the Zoom bit. She always seems to end up with with doing that side, the technical side of it. Joanne as well, thank you, and also Fiona as well for coming along, and also for our sort of students and graduates as well. I think who've really made it a really interesting conversation, for sharing their experiences with everyone. And we look forward to hearing from you. If you wish to contact us, please do. We're very, very open to conversations with you. So yeah, so thank you all for coming, and shall we say goodbye? Very good.
Thank you. Bye bye.